you seem to have a love of a sporting documentary, cricket in particular, you know, with Warriors and The Edge under your belt. What led you down the path to focusing on tennis legend John McEnroe for this turn?
Good question. A producer I'd worked with before, Victoria Barrell, she contacted me and said at the end of The Edge, oh, there's a chance that John McEnroe is going to do a film. Would you be interested? First and foremost, anyone offering me a job is lovely. So I was quite happy with that. I was like, absolutely. I mean, a new McEnroe, obviously, iconic name. So I'm not like a massive tennis aficionado, but I'm obviously aware of the sport and played a bit when I was younger. So we flew over to see John, and I kind of had come up with an idea that I thought could be cool, and we pitched that. And then of course the pandemic struck. So that just led to Zoom calls like this with John over a number of months, and getting to know him and sort of, I guess, getting an understanding of who he was and how he worked and all that kind of thing. And that's where it grew from, really. And yeah, he was then going, okay, yeah, let's do this film. And he was prepared to commit to it honestly. As you see, he's authentic to a fault. So, and that's what we needed, because we didn't want, and he didn't want a puff piece. So we didn't want that. We wanted something that felt human and real, flaws and all.
So that I was going to say to you, I mean, because he is quite candid in the whole documentary, and even putting himself out there saying how his behaviour wasn't the best at times. So was that always on the cards from the very beginning, that you didn't have to persuade him to go a little bit more in depth and open up a bit more?
I think I certainly I remember one of the earlier conversations, I was just like, because I didn't really have any sort of skin in the game at that point. I wasn't, it wasn't officially happening. So it was kind of like I needed to be pretty straight with him. If we were going to go on this journey, like it had to be, honest. And we would go places that he might feel uncomfortable with, and he would feel exposed by. But at the same time, like me as a filmmaker, I really respect people that contribute on screen and put their honest emotions there, and I want to make sure that they're safe when they do that, and not exploited in a way that's really unfair. So it was about him learning that about me and understanding how I made films, and that I really tried to make films from the heart and like the human aspect of it, so that he was on safe ground, because his experiences had obviously been, certainly with the British sort of media, as it were, not that enjoyable. So, he was definitely reticent to begin with, but I think once he understood and he started to see bits of footage and also started to understand me a bit more, I think he felt safer to go there. And certainly the more like raw stuff was later in the process. It didn't all come out straight away. I think to begin with, there was a lot more of the kind of bite-sized stuff that he was probably used to talking about all the time. And you had to get through that and get to the sort of the deeper elements of his psyche, really.
Yeah, and it was it's quite touching as well, that with the how he had his family around him as well in the documentary, and obviously you had like Björk was in there as well for contributors, but obviously there is like certain people are missing from contributing, say with Tatum O'Neal. Was she approached at all, or did you not want anything to do with it?
No. So with Tatum, like, it was definitely for me the trickiest part of the film, because what I really wanted to avoid was like putting blame on anybody really, or John or Tatum, for certain things in their life, and I didn't want it to become about what the tabloids would make it about. I wanted it to be about much more universal themes than that. So with Tatum, for example, I spoke to John, and I also spoke more importantly to their shared children about how she was, and I don't think she was particularly well whilst we were filming. So I had to make a decision. Did I feel that was morally right to like try and put pressure on somebody to be in a film like this, when the film wasn't about that, if that makes sense? It was a part of his life. And so I had to be guided by the kids quite a lot there. And they were definitely not too keen on that scenario. And I totally respect that. So what I tried to do with that section of the film was just make it about, okay, these are the facts. What was the impact on the kids? What was John's behavior or John's the thing that he was going through, how did that impact the kids in that scenario? Because that's really, for me, what the film was about. It was about father John, his children, the mistakes of his father, or the lack of connection that he struggled with. Was he going to make those same mistakes with his children? And that's what the theme of the film that I felt was strong. So yeah, and there's a couple other omissions. For example, Jimmy Connors, we'd love to have had Connors in, and he said he would do it, and then I guess decided he didn't want to do it. So that Connors was the one that I felt like, gutted that we didn't get him. But as for the others, I felt we did the right things, really. Yeah, so that's probably it, really. That's the answer.
It doesn't take away from the documentary at all, but it does, makes you think, what's going on there?
Yeah, it's a relevant question, absolutely. No problem.
Yeah. Was there anything in particular that was actually quite shocking to you that you found out from McEnroe, opening up at all?
I wouldn't say shocking particularly, but I feel like it was revelatory in terms of, firstly, the relationship with his father, and how John himself, I don't think, realised the impact of that going through his life until we were quite deep into making the film, and maybe even to him watching the film. He subsequently said it's felt like he's gone through like this free therapy for like 2 years in exploring through the interviews his relationship with his dad and what that lacked, and that he never really, he's got unresolved grief there, essentially. He never really got from his father. He didn't even know what he wanted his father to say to him, but he never got it, whatever it was. And now he was wrestling with not doing that same thing with his own kids. And at the moment, he's in a good place with that. But like, I think that to me was quite revelatory, that even he at his age was still a bit of a little boy in some ways. Like still like kind of, you see that when it comes out in his humor and other things. He's still quite a young kid in a lot of ways. So that was quite certainly really strong for me. Also the fact that, his wife Patty says he's probably on the spectrum. And I think, when you see the evidence of the film and how that comes through, I think she's probably right. Like there's definitely, his brain definitely works in a slightly different way, which makes him brilliant at so many things. And it also means he gets into trouble in other ways because he doesn't quite know how to interact or connect with people in a certain way. So those are the things that I found really revealing about John, which I feel hadn't really been gone into anywhere else, because it's always anger, it's always the whole outburst. And of course, that's a big symptom of who he is. Yeah. But there's reasons for that. And there's, trying to dig into what we found interesting for sure.
Yeah, definitely. You certainly look at him. Well, I certainly looked at him a completely different light after watching the documentary.
Yeah, I think you just have a bit more sympathy and understanding. It doesn't mean you think everything he does is right or that he's justified or any of that. But like, you just understand more a rounded human being, and perhaps in some situations the same, or maybe you wouldn't. But like, you get the spirit of the man far more than what I think maybe had come before.
Yeah. And finally, now that you've covered cricket, you covered tennis, what's next for you? Football?
Yeah. Good question. Well, I definitely want to break out from sport now. We're developing a couple of things. One that's more climate driven for certain, because I feel like that's the most urgent. It's hard to look beyond that now, from a story perspective, certainly as a filmmaker, but finding a way to do that and address that in a way that reaches, I guess, is more accessible to more people, and perhaps less of a polarizing issue. So that's definitely something that we're developing at the moment. But also, open to offers as always. Let's see what comes out. You never know.
Okay, well, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No worries. Thanks very much for your time, Sarah. Thank you.